Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Trevor Garifuna Show. We're broadcasting live from San Francisco, California. Live from San Francisco, California. Please do us a favor and share. Share, because the conversation today is a very, very important conversation. We have a special guest all the way from the Netherlands, Sister Leonie Tanggahma, and President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, Rehabilitating Committee 2020, Akili Malik and Kruma. We're going to start with introductions. Sister Leonie, please introduce yourself, which and include which organization you represent.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Allow me to extend, first of all, the brotherly and revolutionary greetings of my leader, who is Lieutenant General Jeffrey Bomanak. He is the chairman of the Organisasi Papua Merdeka, the OPM, which is the Free Papua Movement. Also, allow me to start with the words of one of our famous diplomats. We are from West Papua, which is in the Pacific. However, in the 70s, one of our famous diplomats, who's my father, actually went to Africa to seek for support. And he said in an interview that Africa is our motherland. All the Black populations which settled in Asia over the hundreds of thousands of years came undoubtedly from the African continent. In fact, the entire world was populated from Africa. Hence, we, the Black in Asia and the Pacific today, descend from Proto-African peoples. We were linked to Africa in the past. We are linked to Africa in the future. We are what you might call the Black Asian diaspora. So it's in that spirit that I give my reactions to you today, a spirit of profound belief in ourselves, which was spread by one of the leaders that have influenced our thoughts and our leaders, the Most Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Respect to those who follow in his path through the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Community Leagues, and salute to my co-panelist, the President General. And also allow me to also pay tribute to the Garifuna people, a people scattered throughout the world, throughout the Caribbeans, but it is throughout the world to us. Great culture, which is counting a lot on its leaders who are, I feel that it is a community that wants to be respected, and it will be respected. Respect to the Garifuna people.
Thank you very much, Sister Leonie. Ashe. President General Akili Malik and Kruma.
And Hotep, everyone. I'm Baba Akili Malik and Kruma, President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League Rehabilitating Committee 2020. I've been a part of the UNIA for over 40 years. Had the opportunity to learn from Thomas W. Harvey, who was one of the first graduates of the first class taught by the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey himself. I also like to pay homage and honor to people of African descent all over the world. So it is not your geographical location that is relevant. It is understanding the history and the lineage that is important. That's what makes us who we are. We can look at each other and see ourselves. And one of the things we have to understand, Africa populated the world, but Africa also is the economic engine that drives the world, although it does not benefit from its own wealth and its own abilities to do so. So I look forward to the conversation today, giving praises to all of those who are supportive of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And I'd like to begin by making a statement that you will hear. People keep talking about trying to exonerate Marcus Garvey and asking a government that actually imprisoned him to exonerate him. As President General, I am declaring we shall exonerate Marcus Mosiah Garvey on African Independence Day, August 31st, 2022. I'm not asking anybody except the people of African descent, the men and women who pay homage and give any salute to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I care not what realm you're from, to stand up and learn to chant, we exonerate Garvey. Back to you, sir.
We exonerate Garvey. We exonerate Garvey. True, true, true. And the conversation we're going to have today is about autonomy. And ask too much. We ask too much. We have not identified the fact that we are, again, the original man, therefore need not ask not only to exonerate Marcus Garvey, but we need not ask to determine ourselves to be an independent nation of people who is economically a force in the world today.
Which is why we're not asking.
Which is why we're not asking.
We're not asking.
And we need to stop asking. And the conversation today is, what is autonomy? What is self-determination? What is the difference between the two, and which of the two do African communities possess? And when we say African communities across the globe, Sister Leonie, let's start with autonomy. What is autonomy?
Autonomy, basically, when you look at the definition of it, you tend to see terms like self-sufficiency, self-government, self-rule, but there's always a degree of autonomy that is allowed. And I put the emphasis on the word allowed, because when you speak about autonomy, it means that there's somebody above you. It means that there's somebody that really decides for you in case they want to. So there's always this power that is able to manage you. And it is different from independence, which is basically what the West Papuans want. It is different also. It is a category of the right to self-determination, but it is, in most of the cases that I've seen, used by a colonizer or an imperialistic force to actually control the people. They say, we grant you autonomy, but in reality, that is not the case. So in the case of West Papua, maybe I can explain what happened. In the 60s, we were supposed to become an independent country because there was a big wave of decolonization going through the world in the 60s. A lot of African countries were getting their independence and West Papua was supposed to have the same fate. And it's so happened that we were part of the Dutch colony. The Dutch was the colonizers. And Indonesia, which was also part of that colony, saw it happen, and they wanted us to be integrated in their country. But the West Papuans are very different people from the Indonesian people. They are Melanesian people. They are a Black people, and they identify more with the Melanesians, for example, the people from Vanuatu or Papua New Guinea, which is on the other side. What happened was the decolonization process that was supposed to happen did not happen, or it did not finish entirely, because we were basically recolonized by Indonesia. And since then, they have been giving us so-called autonomy.
Right.
And that has not helped us at all.
And Sister Leonie, we'll go a little bit deeper into that. I want you to first scratch the surface of what's going on with the Papuan community, which you just did. Now, President General, describe what is self-determination. Just scratch that surface real quick, and then we're about to intertwine the two.
Well, you say scratch the surface. My sister queen that's on this call scratched the surface. Self-determination means you have the ability to control your own destiny, to control the economic systems of the country and or the economic system of the person. Realizing that self-determination has to be on every level. It has to be self-determination within the person, within his family, within his community, therefore within his nation. Self-determination means that I determine the direction that we go. That's what it means. And I don't mean I, myself, but I, as the larger I, we the people make that choice. We the people determine what's the economic engine, what we're going to do. We determine the political structure. One of the things that we at RC 2020 is dedicated to is developing an African nation based on African democracy. That's something that the world has not seen, because what we learned is a European democracy. So what we've learned is to be interdependent upon a system that rules us. So we have to gain the understanding of self-determination as we gain the understanding of independence, and then we can move away from being an autonomous government ruled by another government.
Man, I love that. So what's going on right now, for those who don't know, is that the Papuan community in the Pacific Island was transferred from one colonizer to another colonizer, but they were bestowed with something called autonomy. So to our people who are with us today, we're breaking this down to you, because if you're wondering as to why we as a people are powerless, if you're wondering as to why we're not an economic force, if you're wondering as to why we're not a political force, it's not because we have not, right? It's not because we have not, but we have, there's one thing we have not, that's self-determination, which was just described by my President General, the ability to lift yourself up and take yourself economically, politically to another level. Sister Leonie, talk to us about how autonomy has benefited the Papuan community, if at all.
It hasn't. No,
I was going to say it, but that was for you.
The answer is quite simple. It hasn't. One of the things that you do when you're an oppressed people is you try to look at things from on the bright side. On the bright side, autonomy that was imposed on us has made the urge or the want to become free even stronger. That's the only positive thing, because we see what it is doing to us. We see also the reason why Indonesia uses it. It uses autonomy so that it can tell to the world that it's actually doing some good to the West Papuans. It tells them we are developing West Papuans. We are making, this is in the name of development, progress, just civilization even, because they actually see us as an uncivilized people, which is quite good, because then you see the racism in it. It is a very racist view of who and what we are. It is a colonizing view. So it is something that puts the emphasis on the fact that they still see us as people who need to be colonized. And that's from the past century.
But wouldn't you say it is such a dichotomy that anybody could actually think that we were uncivilized, we should be colonized, that we need to be guided? See, and just to elevate the conversation, in total agreement with my sister Queen, in America, they still believe that you need to become American. I'm saying you believe you're supposed to be an American. And when you believe that you're supposed to be an American, then you accept the direction of America. And therefore, you accept the direction of the oppressor. West Papua has been fighting that determination since they tried to put it on them. Because freedom is free to decide for yourself.
Without a doubt. And freedom is what self-determination would look like, correct?
Yes, because if, to your point, yes. So if look at Marcus Garvey, my point of reference. Marcus Garvey did not see the world that we see. But the world that he wanted was the world to where there was an independent African nation representing African people all over the world, speaking to whatever nation needed to be addressed so that we could represent our own interests and therefore our own direction. He was persecuted because he drove that belief in us that we could accomplish that. And they had to take that belief back, which is why they incarcerated him unjustly and tried to taint him. And then on the continent of Africa, they did the exact same thing. So as my sister Queen made reference to the 60s, as Africa was becoming independent nations, they didn't become an independent nation. Kwame Nkrumah said, Ghana can't be free if Africa not free.
Yeah.
And white folks, and the colonizers feared him too.
Absolutely.
Sister Leonie.
Absolutely. The same is happening in West Papua, in the region itself of Melanesia, where you see indeed our countries our sister nations that are independent on paper. Because they still have some sort of autonomy relationship with the big neighbors in the neighborhood, Australia.
I love the way you say that.
Yeah, so they still depend on them. They still get a lot of money from them, and in that way, they still get instructions on how to lead their lives, lead their education, lead their and so in their minds, they're still basically colonized. And in the case of the West Papuan people, it is something that we have to fight constantly. The fact that you fight against it makes you realize even more that you are colonized, and it makes you fight even more, and it makes you more resilient, and you want to get out of this. And in some cases, even it's either I get out of this or I die. There's no middle way. There's no. So it's something that is very true in our region, but also the other factor that zooms in on that and that is used by the colonizer or the one that gives autonomy is the fact that they use our own people to colonize us.
Well, you know what? I like that comment about the fact that they use our own people. Because one of the most atrocious things.
He'll be back.
Yes, he always is.
But so that we don't lose, right? But one of the most atrocious things is the fact that they do use those of us in the. We have to understand neocolonialism, and then neocolonialism 21st century, because it has made adjustments, and it makes adjustments because the desire is to maintain their, for a lack of a better word, to maintain control of you or us in such a way that we don't realize that we're being controlled and manipulated. So they try to be more sophisticated. Our consciousness, like in West Papua and other nations throughout the world, where that battle goes on all the time, where they attempt to tell you, okay, we're gonna make you free. And the Dutch was some of the worst colonizers ever.
Right.
So they played it well because their economy became dependent upon you, dependent upon us, dependent upon their control.
And what they actually did, President General, because again, West Papua was a good example, where the United Nations, right, was a part of a coup that established a de facto government in West Papua. And the de facto government still exists. It's called the Indonesian government. But the Papuan people, quote unquote, have autonomy. But I want us to speak on something real quick. President General and Leonie. I want to hear from you. People don't know that Haitians were the first blacks in the Western Hemisphere, and actually only blacks in the Western Hemisphere, to free themselves from slavery. But there's one fact that people don't know about. That even though Haiti freed itself from oppression from the French, let's speak on this. Haitians are paying the French government reparations
So,
to this very day.
So let's speak on that, because a lot of folks don't know that. A lot of folks will know that Haiti was the first independent African nation in the Western Hemisphere. Their independence scared the slave owners out their mind. And in some way or another, the French demanded reparations for the slaves that they lost
and
for the crop that they lost. And they got it. But that's again where self-determination and independent nationhood status changes that, because they got it because the world that the political leadership that decided it didn't look like them.
Hello, Sister Leonie. So, what do you want to say about that, Sister Leonie? Go ahead, sister.
One of the things that you see when you live here in Europe is that when you talk about Haiti, people just think about this poor country, you know, out there, it's really bad and all that. What they don't understand is that they are the first people who fought and who won and who got victory. And that is the reason why they are paying today, because they won, and those people who colonize them want them to pay. And they are making them pay until today. And it is horrendous.
Right, absolutely.
Right. Because that is the enemy that we are facing. We are facing an enemy that not only wants to, you know, squash us like cockroaches or whatever. Once they see that they cannot defeat us, they fully they
find another route.
And
they find another route.
They want to annihilate. They want to demolish. They want to, and that is something that is not African.
No,
African mentality is about looking at their brothers and sisters. Everybody is human. We are brothers and sisters. I am not going to kill you or dishonor you or disrespect you and make sure that you became my slave over and over and over again throughout the centuries. And that is what they have been doing.
That's right.
I exist because you exist. You exist because I exist.
I am because you are, and because you are, therefore I am. And each of us, an African mind will be the basis of anything African. Go ahead, my sister queen.
Exactly.
In the Garifuna language, you for me and I for you.
For you. Yeah.
Right. And one thing I must say that principle was a law. Okay, that is a law that the creator of human beings, the creator of us, said, I for you, you for me. It's not optional.
Right.
Therefore, when we say Hotep, what do we mean by that?
As that comes out of our ancient African structures as we relate to each other, Hotep is to say to you, peace be upon you, and you say Hotep back, so there's peace upon me, because together our peace is what's going to manifest our growth and our development. See what, and I'm going to go take this back just for a half second to self-determination, which is why I said it exists on various levels, because right now we are in a world to where we have to change the mindset of people of African descent to think African oriented, to understanding that Africa was not a lost continent. Africa was not a dark continent. Cell phones, computers work because of the minerals that come out of the African continent. You see, the economic development in America existed not just because white folks was invented, because they couldn't grow cotton. We grew the cotton. They couldn't pick the cotton. We picked the cotton. They couldn't make the molasses. We made the molasses. Yeah, their industries depended upon us. What we have to recognize is that still exists today.
Yeah.
So self-determination, and you say who has it? It's what we work to achieve, which is why the RC 2020 says a government for African people on an African democracy. I'm not asking for a European democratic system. I already got that. What I have to get is a democratic system based on us. And I use the terminology Africa because that's what we call the continent. And I say all of us, regardless of where you live, has to become a part of that African democracy so that wherever you are, we speak to you in the world. We know we're not going to eliminate white folks, but I want to speak on the same plane as them. No, but I want to speak on the same plane so that when Africa speaks, Africans are protected.
Without a doubt. And another great example of, and we're only talking about France. We're not talking about the Dutch government. We're not talking about the British government.
Right.
Dr. Arikana was removed from the African Union because she spoke on one simple fact, that the French government, again, takes about $500 billion out of the continent on a yearly basis. 500 billion, not million. Yeah. 500 billion.
And go ahead, sister.
That's just terrible. It's and it is made possible again by those of our brothers who are in the leadership who are not serving our purposes but the purposes of the colonizers.
And yes.
And there is a process right now going on exactly in French-speaking Africa where you see for 10 years, they've been using the media, several media. They've been trying to get into the minds of the young Africans to tell them what is really happening. And they've also included this information that there is this money that is being paid. And that it's nonsense that you're actually paying this money because of it's a colonial debt. It's something that the French get paid for because colonization, they lost it, so they need some sort of.
Sister Leonie, Sister President General, let me say this. Everyone, welcome to the Trevor Goodie Show. Please share. One of our viewers says, interesting topic. It seems like the entire Black nation is facing similar challenges. And President General, before you say what you're going to say, our guest, yes, we are, because the rules are made by those who break the rules.
That's an interesting way to put it. But I would say, it is an interesting way to say it, but to the comment, yes, African nations do face similar challenges because we have to begin to define ourselves not based on the geographical borders that separate the 54 countries. And so if we separate that and begin to become one people, we can change. You see, when Nkrumah led Ghana into independence, and he said Ghana's independence won't mean anything unless all Africa is free. Unless all Africa is free. But it did not mean independent countries. It meant Africa. Africa be free. Yeah. Marcus Messiah Garvey said, up you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. Not separately, but collectively. So that's the African mindset that our ancient ancestors understood. And I say ancient because I'm going to go back to before they called it the Christian era, the 7,000, 8,000 years of history that they try to wipe out like it didn't exist. See, I'm going to reach back there and pull forward because that's Sankofa. You reach back and you pull forward, which is why in reaching back, pulling forward, I know that we have the ability to exonerate the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, which then elevates this conversation to a whole nother level because we will have determined the destiny and changed the condition and will not have asked anyone other than men and women that look like us, that believe similar to us, if not exactly as us, to stand with us. And once we get that first niche done, that first mark reached, then we can speak to the rest of the world and say to the rest of the world, look what we can do. Because what I want is every African government to stand with us too.
Right. You know, the point, go ahead. The point, go ahead. Go ahead, President General.
So to bring it back to our topic, yes, we must have self-determination, but we don't have it now. We don't have it. We can have autonomy, but you can't have self-determination, because then you're talking about controlling your own destiny.
And I would say that one of the biggest issues that we have is we have an integrationist mentality.
Ooh.
Right? And through this, and you spoke on there a little bit, President General, where we believe that just because we are in America, we think or we believe that just because we are in front, we think and we believe that because we are in Britain, that we are British, that we are American, and that we are French, and all of the rights bestowed upon the British, the French, etc., are also our rights. When, Sister Leonie, what is it about our thinking that the system perpetuates doing the same thing to us, but we still believe and have hope in this system?
It's all in the mind. It's the way they have successfully colonized us, our minds. We believe in a Jesus, which is white and which is going to save us. And that's where it starts. And if you're gone thinking that the freedom is going to come from this European-looking guy from somewhere else, then it's not going to happen. What we need to know, and what they try to make us believe by all these charades that they've been playing throughout the years, in the 60s, 70s, for example, in West Papua, they made this New York agreement with the Dutch. So it was between the Dutch and the Indonesians, and then it was between the Indonesia and the United Nations. So they did this transfer of authority. They did this, so they sort of played it so that we believe that, oh dear, this is all over, we don't have any rights anymore. But what we didn't realize, or what our leaders realized, because they did, was that we have sovereignty. We have the right to self-determination. And that right will never go away. And that sovereignty of the people will never go away. Unless we actually one day say, okay, we don't want to know this, that right, that sovereignty is never going to go away. And because we have that sovereignty, as a Black people, we will exonerate Marcus Garvey.
Without a doubt.
And that sovereignty that you speak of is absolutely the right. You see, what we have to understand is, as you so eloquently put it, it is the right to self-determination. It is the right to sovereignty. West Papua is a sovereign nation. Amen. We have to recognize it as a sovereign nation. We have to stand with West Papua as they've battled those particular changes. Absolutely. That's why I said we will exonerate Garvey, because we will establish independent African nation states and then an independent African nation.
All right, President General.
Yes.
Marcus Garvey taught us one aim,
one God, one aim.
One God, one aim,
one destiny.
One destiny. Now, the reason please explain to us, after I make this comment, please explain to us what he meant by that. And before you go into that, we want the audience members to know that there are maybe 8,000 different Black movements that you can be a part of. Okay? We're not going to mention, we're not going to name them. But the difference between those 7,999 other movements and this one movement called the UNIAACL is the pursuit of self-determination. There's no other Black organization out there. There's no other Black movement out there that is pursuing self-determination like the UNIA. So what does Marcus Garvey mean when he says one God, one aim, one destiny?
And to your point, there is the West Papua movement, which is about sovereignty in its own nation too. So the UNIAACL, and I'm going to add RC 2020, because that's what is committed to what you described. When Garvey, understand something, Garvey lived at a different time, but God manifests itself to man in many different ways. So it does not matter how you pursue God. We have one God, and that's the God of all African people. You could say God of the universe if you like, if you want to broaden it out. He said one aim, because our only aim, understand the time frame, was to build an independent African nation to speak in the world. One God, one aim, one destiny. That is our destiny. Our destiny, so that West Papua will be an independent nation, but it will be spoke of as a part of an African nation. Their independence is secure when Africa's independence is secure. So Garvey looked at a world much different. But in looking at that world, and he said, one God, one aim, one destiny, realizing that the first constitution for people of African descent was written by men and women who came from all over the globe in 1922 New York. Not one group of people, people from all over the world came to New York. African Independence Day was established in 1920 in New York by African men and women from all over the world. Excuse me, African women and men from all over the world, which is why on that day, as we rebuild and re-energize African Independence Day, we exonerate the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. We're not asking nobody. We made the determination. We know the court system in America is corrupt. We know that they feared Garvey. We know that they feared educated people of African descent trying to build and move forward. We know that they feared him moving into Africa and beginning to raise Africa, and therefore breaking down those barriers that they put up. Africans on the continent of Africa have to see us as the same as themselves. They have to see West Papua the same as themselves. We have to see African people wherever they are the same. One God, one aim, one destiny. I care not what God you pray to. I don't.
Look, the next conversation we're going to have next week with President General is how the church has impacted the Black race. Again, like President General said, if it's Allah you praise, if it's Yahweh you praise, if it's God you praise, congratulations. Okay, because at the end of the day, there's only one God.
That's right.
Right, and at the end of the day, we only have one aim, which, like President General said, is our destiny of this self-determined people. Yeah. Sister Leonie, how can people reach you? How can they get involved with what's happening in West Papua?
They can. We're still constructing our website, so we're not there yet. But we do have. Maybe I can leave an email address where people can reach us. It's actually quite simple. It's info@opm-fpm.org. OPM is Organisasi Papua Merdeka. FPM is the translation of it, Free Papua Movement. At this stage, we are actually fighting that very autonomy that is imposed upon us since last year. It took 20 years for the first phase of it, and then they decided to actually make it a second phase to continue that special autonomy. Included in that special autonomy, they are also dividing the country. They're dividing West Papua into smaller entities, administrative entities, and thereby making sure that more military can come in to control the people. More military comes in not only to control the people, but also to control the resources that they're still wanting to get out of West Papua. What we see now is also, ever since the 24th of February, a big change in the world, where you have some powers that are trying to respect more or less the sovereignty of others, as opposed to imperialism that is trying to get control of everybody and everything in the world today. West Papua, as a country in the Pacific, is following that closely. And we're, at some stage, countries are going to have to choose sides. In the Pacific, You have countries like Australia and New Zealand who represent the interest of the United States, as well as Indonesia. They basically really represent the interest of the capitalist United States that are trying to control the world. And then you have other powers that are coming in, like China and Russia,
right,
who are saying, you know. So it's something that I think is going to be very maybe divisive. What we need to do is we need to stand our grounds and say that we are here for the right to self-determination. We are here for those who respect the right to self-determination. Anybody who can help and understands and respects that right, anyone that understands the sovereignty of the people, we can cooperate with. Others who have violated that right for the past 60 years, sorry, we don't actually believe them.
Organisasi
Papua Merdeka.
Papua Merdeka.
OPM.
Organisasi Papua Merdeka. Organization for the Empowerment and the Freedom of OPM of the West Papuan. And we do want to let you people know that there is an online presence that is really causing more confusion, so that people understand there's an online presence that is actually governing the Papuan, pretending to represent the Papuan community and actually delivering the Papuan community into the hands of the enemy. So now OPM, Organisasi Papua Merdeka, has been around since the 60s. So we're asking everyone to understand the difference between the manifestation in 2015 or so and the organization that has been around since day one. President General, we want to give you the closing comment to talk to us about what leadership that look like you and I, right, can do to shift our thinking from autonomy to self-determination, but to actually pursue it.
It starts with understanding who you are. It starts with understanding that we are an African people. And it starts with realizing that our capabilities are such that we can and we are responsible for moving our race forward. We're responsible and have to take ownership of the negativity in our community, because those of us who choose the path of leadership have to be willing to make that change and that challenge. Mr. Harvey, as well as Mr. James, taught by Mr. Garvey, and Mr. James was Charles L. James. He was also a student in the first class, said leadership, as Garvey said, was pain, blood, and death. Pain, blood, and death. So that means you lead and you give your all, and that's the sacrifice that you make. Understanding that our greatness comes from how our children rise. As I said earlier, an African mind in each of us is the basis for anything African. Nothing African can be created without an African mind that is creative. Therefore, one God, one aim, one destiny.
One destiny.
And before my last comment, we exonerate Garvey. We exonerate Garvey. We, people of African descent, exonerate Garvey. I don't need no white president, no black female vice president.
Right.
I don't need them to do that. We do that.
The power is in our hands, and we, the people, must never forget that at this period of time, we're pursuing reparations for the entire race. It's a laundry list of those who oppressed us and put us in the situation that we're in. But I want to quote a brother by the name of Robert, or some of you know him as Bob Marley. And Bob Marley took a quote from the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and put it in a song. And he said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Do you hear that? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Okay? Please look up the definition of the word Stockholm Syndrome as we close, because it's important that you understand that Stockholm Syndrome is a coping mechanism to a captive or abused person in a situation as such. People develop positive feelings for or towards their captors or abusers over time.
And we've had over 300 years of that time.
And we've had over 300 plus years of that time. And the reason we right now are still operating under autonomy is because we are in love with our master. Some of us are in love with our master. The gatekeepers who can free the people are in love with the master. But don't depend on them, people. Depend on the God within yourself.
That's right.
Trevor Palacio, president of Division 77, UNIAACL Rehabilitating Committee. Let that be clear. Rehabilitating Committee 2020. What we want you to do is to emancipate yourself. One God, one aim, one destiny.
Mandala.